we are creating an object here. So let's start something different. Now, from now on, we are going to start input and output in Java. Alright, what we are going to start is input and output in Java. So first of all, I'd like to ask you one thing. How do we have an output in Java? How can we see an output in Java? We use it very often. What's the syntax to have an output? How can we have an output on a screen, on a CMD? What should we write here to get an output? Come on, tell me.
System.out.print.
Exactly. That's right. Hello. So here we have our output as hello, right? So we all know that we can have have our output as hello here. So there are other ways to print hello as well, right? So another method that we can use to print something is, one is print. Another we have is printf as well, right? So let's compile it. Let's run it. Okay. So we are having three hello. So we have three. We have many number of print methods here, but we are using just these three of them, right? So we can use these three print methods to print anything on our CMD. But now the question is, so what we have understood here is that using our keyboard. So the standard input device that we use is our keyboard for an input value, right? Now there are many classes. There are many classes for input, stream, reader. The next class that we are going to discuss here is buffered reader. Right. So we have buffered reader has a method. So its method name is read. So what read method does, it just reads an input. And another thing is it reads a single character. Right. And its return type is int. Okay. So these are the characteristics of read method. Yeah. So now let's work with a simple program here. So we have made a class demo. Now what we are going to use is, we are going to use the class input stream reader. So new and Here we have to write system.in so that we can get a standard input from our device. Here our device is keyboard. Now we are going to use the second class, which is buffered reader. Let's write it br equals to new buffered reader. So let's create a variable x equals to. Now what we have to do is we have to read an input, right? We have to read an input from the CMD. So which method are we going to use here? I just told you. Which method are we going to read a character? Are we going to use to read a character? Anyone? The answer is here. Read method, right? You can read it here. It reads a single character as an input. So, and which class has that method? Buffer, the object of buffer reader to read the to use the read method, right? Now let's compile and run it. What it's saying is it cannot find the symbol. Cannot find the symbol input stream reader. I hope I am audible to everyone. Yes, I am audible, and yes, it's yeah. So what we need to do is we need to import the files, which import the packages which have these classes. So the packages that contains these classes are import java.io.input stream reader. Right. Another package that we are supposed to include is buffered reader. Right. And another package that we are supposed to import. Okay, so we can see here we have another package to import as IO exception. Right. So right now this is our simple code. Let's run it for now. Let's see whether we have any exception or any errors right now or not. So yeah, now we have exception, unreported IO exception. So that means okay. So let's not get deep into it. Just we have to write throws IO exception. So what an exception is? Well, an exception. Okay, it's a different topic then. So right now, just consider this only. The read method throws then an IO exception, right? So let's compile and run the program now. Since we have got every exception, and when we run the program, see the CMD is waiting for an input. Let's give it as an input A. So why is the answer 97? Anyone has any idea? We just gave an input A and the output is 97. How's that possible? What's this 97 here? Anyone?
So is it character value?
Yes, it's actually the ACII code or ACII value for that character. So
Yeah.
what does this read method return? It basically returns the ACI value. So we have to convert it into something into a character. Let's typecast it since it's So what we are doing is here is we are just typecasting into, yeah, I hope it. So now let us enter any key. Let's write D. See, we got D as an output as well, right? We got, okay. So what if we write more than one input? It still got one. Why? Because reads only first character, right? What if we write one? We'll get one. Here one is a character, not a value, right? Let us write O. We'll get a O here because we have print one thing. Okay. So let's do another thing. Mm, yeah. So let's have another character as Y. So A. So there is a. So this is how it works. In order to put everything in a, like, in order to get two inputs at the same time, they have to write it in a same line. Otherwise, one input will be considered as A, then another. Now let's have some another example here. Mm, yeah. So one more thing here. We have imported three packages here, right? Like Java IO dot input stream reader, buffer reader, and IO exception. Can we just write one package here so that all of them gets included? What can we write here instead? Any suggestions? What can we write instead here? Instead of writing three packages name, what can we write? Just one line statement so that we can have an answer. No idea? We can just write Java import Java dot io dot star. So what this, let's say, it's not star, it's asterisk symbol, right? The symbol is called asterisk. So when we write this, it means it is including all the classes that is present in this IO package, right? It is including all the classes which is present in IO package. So we can write it like this way only as well. Now we are having another example. So let's work on that example here. So what read does, read reads a single character. But what read line does, it reads a line, as the name suggests, or a multiple characters, or read multiple characters at the same time. So let's compile and run our program here. So what we are talking here about is we are trying to read a line, a complete line, or multiple characters. So, or we can also say that we are reading here a set of characters. So what can a set of character be called? Or multiple characters, what can it be called? Can we call it a string? Let's declare a string as s equals to br dot read line. So what we are going to do here is we are going to print the string here. Let's compile and run this code. See, it works fine. Even we have just added one thing, it works fine. Now let's run the code and it's waiting for input. So let's type something A, B, C, D. See, the same output gets generated A, B, C, D. So what we have done here is we have taken input for a string. What we have done here is taken an input for a string. So readline method helps us to reads a word or reads multiple characters. Right. This can be the definition of read line. Now, okay, so yeah, there's one small thing that I would like to tell everyone. Yeah. Consider we have a string, right? We have a string s equals to 10, right? We have a string s equals to. Okay, let's do it to an output. An example. We have a string s1, then we have a string s2 equals to br dot read line. And what we are doing here is we are just s1 plus s2. Okay. Let's compile it and let's run it. So first input that I'm giving is 10. Then the second input that I'm giving is 20. So if I press enter right now, what will be the output? See, we have added these two strings. So what should be the output here? Come on, answer. What should be the output here? We have two inputs, 10 and 20. What should be the output here? No one? Okay. So let's press the enter. And our output is 10, 20. So why our output is not 30? Why? Because here S1 and S2 are strings. So when two strings are added, when we use uh, add symbol with two strings, then the string gets concatenated, right? Or we can say that the string gets displayed one after another. Here, our first string is 10, second string is 20. So output will be 10, 20, and not 30. Not 30. Okay. So let's have another example of it. Now this time I want you all to answer A, B, then C, D. So what will be the output this time? It's simple. It's really simple.
A B C D.
Okay, so let's press enter. Now output is A, B, C, D. Yes, that's correct. Now, so I have a question. How can we then add two numbers here? What if we want to give an input as a number and we want to add those? So for that, we are using wrapper classes here. Wrapper class. So what wrapper class does, for example, we want to convert a string into integer. String into integer. So there is no direct typecasting to it. Like we cannot just write like this int x equals to int s1, where s1 is a string with a value 10. We cannot do this here. So what we need here is we need a wrapper class. So the syntax for a wrapper class is it's simple. I'm going to write it here. Let's first make a variable integer dot parse int, and here we are going to pass the string s1 and s2. And now what we are going to do is system dot println. We are going to add two numbers here. So let's compile and run this program. Okay, so see, you can see that we don't have any error here. And what this signifies, wrapper class, and what it's doing is it's converting string to integer. Okay, so let's run this program first. Now let's write this as 10 and this 20. So if I press enter now, what will be the output? I can see two printlns here. So there will be two outputs. What will be the two outputs? There are two inputs and there will be two outputs. What are they? Any guesses? Anyone?
Will it be 30, sir?
Okay, so first, what should be the first output? Just tell me about this one. What should be output of this one? They just have two strings, and what we did, we just added them. And when we use plus with two strings, what happens? The string gets concatenated. That means the output should be 10, 20. Now what we have done in this code, we have converted those strings into integers, right? So that means when we are using this println, what we are doing is we are actually adding two numbers. So the output should be 30. So let's check the output. So we are having our output as 10 and 20 and 30. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Sure? Any doubts?
No, sir.
No? Okay, so what if see, we have 10 here, all right, and we have let's write AB here. So will this program work? Will this program work properly? Anyone? So when we press enter here, what kind of exception we are getting is number format exception. Why? Because here when we have entered AB, right, when we have entered the string here and we are trying to convert that string AB into an integer. So what kind of integer is an AB? What kind of integer is AB? AB is not an integer, right? So
Yes, sir.
therefore it is throwing an exception with the name number format exception, right? So let's take another example. What if we write, okay, so let's make it a little invisible. System out.println, and the first value, okay, we need double quotes here. Right. Now let's It's visible at least. Now it's understandable right now. Okay, so let's close this. And let's compile it, run it again. Yeah. So let's enter the first value. Here we're entering is 20. The second value we're here entering is 30. So what's our output is 20, 30, and 50. Right. So let's run it again, and let's enter the first value as AB and the second value as 40. So what will be the output right now? What will be the string output? What will be the string output? Come on, answer me. Anyone? What will be the string output here? The output in this line. Okay, so when we press enter, the output should be AB and 40. So what will be the exception again? Why? Because what if we write AB and CD for both of them? We'll get ABCD and then exception. All right. So let's. These are the we have used some test cases to understand how this thing works. Right. So any doubt till now? No doubts. Okay. So we have another. So let's. All right. So okay. So the class name is scanner. Right. So the syntax for it is scanner. Then we have a reference variable for scanner. Let's write it as sc and new. Then we have scanner system dot in. Right. So what it is? That's syntax. Right. Now the thing that we have to use here is, for example, okay. So let us take an example first. Scanner s equals to new scanner system dot in. Right. So now the scanner class has a method. What method it has is next. And another thing is it returns string. It returns string, or its return type is of string. So let's use it now. Since its return type is string, let's have a here sc.next. Since we want to use the next method of scanner class, so we need to use its reference variable, which is holding its object, to access the next method. Right. So let's print this S1 here. So when we compile this program, we should get an error. What this error is, cannot find the symbol scanner s equals to. That means it cannot find the scanner class. So why is it so? Because scanner class is present inside java.util package. So let's write it as this so that now we can see that we don't have any error. But before that, let us write one simple statement here. Write it as let's write it as int. What if we write it as int? So when we compile and run code, what we get here is incompatible type. String cannot be converted to int. That means, okay, so why is that problem? Why is this problem arising? Tell me. Why do I have this problem? Why why cannot this program run? It's just not getting compiled as well. Cannot be converted to int. So what we have here is the next method returns string, right? And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to store a string type of value in an integer, right? So is it possible directly? Yes or no? So okay, let me tell you that it's not possible directly. So scanner class has provided us another method to take integer input, and what that method is, next, 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 right? So let's use this method here. Yeah. So now when we compile our program and then try to run it, see. So we are entering a string. So let's paste here. See what we are getting an error. So that means the next int is specifically for an integer input, right? So you got this point. Similarly, if we want a float type of input, we can use next float long and something like that for everything. Right? So these were some inputs, the way to take inputs in our code. So let's have a quick revision. So what we use for inputs, here we have input stream reader and buffer reader to get an input. Then we have another is scanner to get an input. So what's the difference between these, using these two and using scanner? So the main difference here is that the input stream reader and the buffer reader are used for fast inputs. They are used for fast inputs. Yeah. So this is the main difference between them, right? So I guess we should end it here only. So any doubts, anyone? Anyone? Any doubts? No? So let's end this meeting then.